Guys, Kenny Wisdom here to talk to you about the World Championship. For those of you who don't know, the World Championship location is typically announced on the Sunday of Worlds. Usually they have the closing ceremony, they give everyone the trophies, the people who from Game Freak and from Pokemon in Japan, shake all their hands, and then the announcer says, thank you for joining us and see you next year in beautiful boom. They announce a location, confetti falls from the ground, and everyone gets hyped about where the next world is going to be. This year it didn't happen. The woman just said thanks and see you next year. So everyone was kind of surprised by that and taken aback a bit. There were some rumors there wasn't going to be a Worlds, and some rumors that Pokemon didn't know, and whatever the case may be, they have announced it now. Worlds is going to be in Boston, Massachusetts, which is the first time Worlds has ever been there. And the first time Worlds has been in the Northeast as well. Usually there's a little bit of a West Coast bias, rotating between California and Hawaii for a long time, visiting Florida once or twice, and then the past few years have been Hawaii, Vancouver, DC, and now we're back on the East Coast in Boston. I can't say I'm particularly excited about this. I was expecting someplace either I hadn't been to, maybe someplace in the South where Worlds had never been to before, or an international location. Can't say I was expecting an international location, but can always hope. And if all else failed, I figured we'd do California or Hawaii again, both beautiful places. But Boston's fine, we'll see. I've never been there before, so it's another city I can cross off my list. Excited about that. And in all honesty, Pokemon's about the friends and about the fun and the tournament, and I doubt that I'm going to really be too upset about being in Boston. There's fun things to do. New York's not too far away. I'm sure it'll be fine. Moving on to the next topic. There is no last chance qualifier, which is a pretty big deal. Probably one of the most talked about things from this announcement. So be prepared for that. But also note that the championship point level has changed. For Masters in the US, Canada, and Europe, you now need 300 championship points, the lowest it's ever been to qualify for Worlds, and then seniors and juniors need 250 each. If you're in Latin America, you need 200 and seniors need 150 and juniors need 100. In Asia Pacific, same thing, 200, 150, 100. Same thing for South Africa. So this is a drastic drop in point totals. We had 400 the first year they switched to championship points, and then we had 500, and people thought that was kind of crazy high, and people have been wondering, are they going to lower it back down to 400? Are they going to raise it? Are they going to fix the point totals? And they've actually just dropped it a lot. 300 is definitely going to make this the biggest Worlds, even without a last chance qualifier. That is so few points. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be hard to obtain. You have to play a lot of Pokemon, you have to be good and everything, but it's definitely going to make for a bigger Worlds. There's been some talk about whether or not it devalues a Worlds invite. I'm not so sure about that. If by devalue you mean that there's more of them, then absolutely, but I'm not sure. And will worse players get them? Absolutely. But I'm not sure that it's going to really tank them or anything. As I said, 300 points is still quite a lot. You still need to be decent at Pokemon. And as my good friend Britt Pybus pointed out, if you're a player who has a bunch of championship points, you've qualified for Worlds before, and then you get knocked out of day one by a player who just has, just scraped over with 300, then you probably deserve to be there anyways. Who can say that they didn't deserve to be there if they beat you? So there's that. I should also note that Japan and Korea have their own organized play systems, and their invites and invites to day 2 will be based on whatever kind of their organized play decides. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about with day 1 and day 2, let me explain. On day 1, there will be a number of rounds equal to the attendance, likely 9 rounds, and you will need to win 7 of those to advance. Note that I'm talking Masters numbers. I'm not sure what the seniors and juniors are going to be like, but with 300 championship points being a pretty low threshold, I'm betting that there'll be 9 rounds. So everyone who gets a Worlds invite is going to be invited to Worlds to play on Friday. Usually starts on Saturday, but there's an extra day. Play on Friday. If you get 7 wins, aka 21 points, you advance to day 2. However, if you are the top 16, one of the top 16 players in your division from the US, the top 22 in Europe, the top 8 in Latin America, or the top 8 in Asia Pacific, you will get an automatic invite to day 2. That's huge. It's essentially 7 buys. You get to bypass an entire tournament. You know, a 9-round tournament where you have to go 7-2 to stay alive is just like the day one of regionals. You know, it's a real tournament that you get to basically not play an entire tournament before you play in Worlds. Obviously, I think that it's fine. You know, top 16 in the U.S. or any of those numbers really are really hard to get. You have to be one of the best, and I think that it's appropriate, especially with the bigger Worlds now, that you get rewarded in that way. So I'm fine with it, but it's definitely going to make that race a little bit more entertaining. Maybe I'll even start a video series about the top 16 and kind of update every month, because I think it'll actually be really interesting to see, because you'll definitely, you know, the 16th, 17th, 18th slot will be fighting over that because it has such a huge, huge advantage. Let's see what's next. Oh, the tournament will be all standard format. They are not supporting expanded for this tournament. I don't know that that really says much. I think that there may be some other issues at hand, such as Japanese and Korean players. I'm not sure how their formats work. I'm not sure if they have an expanded format. Let me know in the comments if you do. But I think it's fine. I don't think that it spells the death of expanded or anything like that. I think that it's simply standard is the best format there is, and they want to showcase that at the World Championship. I would personally like to see a split format, World Championship someday, but not right now. Expanded's pretty loose right now. That's the best way of putting it. I just don't want to see, you know, mono, pyro, and virgin at Worlds. It's not really what I think is appropriate. So under the formats we have now, I definitely like to see just mono standard. And the biggest news of all, actually, that is not getting as much attention as I would have thought, is the prizes have almost tripled. First place at Worlds in all divisions gets $25,000. As we say in the industry, that's quite a big game. $10,000, obviously a nice prize, but this is, you know, going from $10,000 for the past few years and $7,500 for a few years before that, and turning into $25,000 is a lot. $25,000 is a life-changing amount of money for a lot of people in Pokemon's, you know, target demographic of 16 to 30-year-olds or so. So really interesting to see what this does for the game. And all the other prices have been increased as well. Second gets 15,000, third and fourth get 7,500, fifth through eighth get 5,000, ninth through 16th get 2,500, and 17th through 32nd get 1,500. Don't get me wrong, top 32 in Worlds is going to be very difficult, especially with such a big field, but if knowing that you can top 32 Worlds and profit off of the tournament is pretty big. In the past, for that, you've gotten boxes or other product that hasn't gotten you near to paying for your flights and hotels and everything, but $1,500 is a big game. Really interested to see where this goes. I could see Pokemon bringing a lot more people into the game because of this. You know, bigger prizes bring people into the game. I could see a spike in attendance next year if this thing stays like this. The one important thing to note, for me at least, is that there is no mention of trophy cards in the official document. I wish I had the document here. I don't, unfortunately, but it mentions the trophy, it mentions the money, it mentions the trip and everything else, but no trophy cards. So for those of you who follow the collecting scene, if you want to check out Collecting Corner, right here on OTB, done by my good friend Dan Norton. There are a few collectors. Dave Persian, who is the most famous one, who collects the trophy cards, the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 trainers. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that. If they just completely get rid of them, or if it was just an oversight. It's also important to mention, speaking of oversights, that this document was put on the Pokemon website and then immediately taken down. So take this with a grain of salt. I personally believe that they just probably need to fix a few things in it and just didn't want to release it yet. I don't think that any of this is really going to change, at least in many of the important parts, but they definitely could. One of the rumors going around is that Boston was the old location that they had that fell through. That's one of the big rumors, is that they had a location and it fell through, and that's why they couldn't announce it at Worlds. And that this document is from then and the locations changed entirely. I don't see that being the case, but as always, take it with a grain of salt. It could change at any time. Now, what I want to hear from you is what you think of this. As I said, I think it's pretty much great across the board. More prizes, a city we've never been to before, a huge prize for the top 16, easier to get into Worlds, you know, a harder format once you get to Worlds, you know, having to play in basically 2 tournaments with a top 8 cut. I think it's great, but I'm sure that some people have other opinions. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think. My name is Kenny Wisdom for On the Bubble. Thank you for watching.